Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present here. And I think this is one in several already that we give updates, just because, as we learned earlier, the timelines and the development life cycle is not trivial. But today I also wanted to give an update, but also introduce some new technology and just show how we continue to, as a company, innovate while we're in development stages, which is sometimes challenging. So Transcend Medical started about 10 years ago. For us, it's an interesting milestone, 2015. The original concept really starting in 2005. And very often we look at those devices and they're very small and they're very straightforward clinically. But sometimes we ignore what it takes to come with the right device. And Transcend had to come with 8 different iterations and 8 different concepts and learn through the clinical stage until we settled on one that provided the best profile. We also have 1,000+ cases over these 10 years and multiple clinical trials, which I, as a person who lives and also clinically treats patients in the space, I'm very happy because we're seeing really level 1 evidence here by glaucoma companies. And I think the field is changing because the standards today are very different from 10 years ago. What it took also is very brilliant people at our company, starting with the Foresight incubator, where the concept really began, and a very dedicated team behind the company driving the entire life cycle of innovation from concept to validation. And of course, we're very happy that we're supported by capital and really faithful VCs that fund our ideas and our passion. Again, it was said before, and I'm not going to dwell too much on that, but we're trying to develop a better therapeutic option for patients. And while medications are safe, it is not uncommon to see a patient like that. This is actually one of our clinical trial patients, where you can see on the right the patient receiving medications, and on the left it's a CyPass stent. And while we believe medications are very safe, they're definitely not without problems. And we see those patients all the time with hyperemia, with irritation, not to mention the compliance problems. On the other hand, on the flip side, the gap to surgery is pretty dramatic, because if we have to deploy conventional glaucoma surgery, we have to really talk about a very invasive procedure, and Dr. Donnefeld mentioned some of the attributes there, and we can see that it's quite significant intervention with a lot of trauma. And on the right, you could see a CyPass device being implanted in the angle in the supraciliary space, which is done in a very minimally invasive approach, typical of all the other mixed companies. And really what we end up having after the implantation, which is done through a clear cornea incision, 1.5 millimeter, very aligned with the phaco intervention, we can see an implant placed in the supraciliary space that creates a permanent conduit to the suprachoroidal outflow. Now, why is that important? And I think we've heard plenty about the trabecular outflow, which is really at the forefront of this MIGS innovation. But Transcend was the first one to really think about alternative pathways. And the suprachoroidal outflow is really compelling. It can be accessed from a single point, and we can access a place of significant absorptive capacity that goes around the entire subscleral space, as it's demonstrated here. And you can see the stent in the picture in the middle, which really creates that conduit. And once you tap that state, the suprachoroidal space, the intent here is really to redirect the aqueous to a place where it's going to be absorbed. Again, we are way beyond the concept stages. We have many, many patients. In fact, our pivotal study for FDA submission has been fully enrolled, and data is now available, and we're preparing to submit to the FDA within the next quarter. But we do have a wealth of clinical data from outside the US, where we see the mixed profile, not only in terms of efficacy and safety. The CAMPUS study is the pivotal study. It's about 505 patients that we completed, and it's a randomized controlled trial for the mixed indication in the US. With a very brief note here, I also wanted to give a little preview about next generation stent technology from Transcend. As I said, we continue to innovate, and while we're developing, we still want to bring next generation devices. And one of the technologies is the CyPass VX infusion system, which is based on learning that we realized from our clinical data that the more we expand the space, the better it gets in terms of IOP lowering. So we were able to develop an injection system that infuses viscous spacer behind the stent and can really augment the absorptive capacity. We've actually done another randomized control study comparing CyPass only versus 2 viscoexpansion doses. It's almost like a dosing study, and we're seeing significant incremental effect. Why are we doing this? Because we understand part of the limitations of MIGS is while they're very safe, or it's hard to say anything is safe, but probably safer than anything else we have in glaucoma, we do need to emphasize the need for better efficacy across the mixed spectrum, and this is what we're trying to do here. So again, we're very happy as a company to be part of the MIGS wave of innovation in ophthalmology. Stent technology is not new to medicine. Obviously, it's been around in pretty much every other specialty, and I personally am very happy that we are driving this new wave of innovation and bringing stent technology to ophthalmology as well. Thank you very much.